What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and in this video I want to do a kind of general market analysis, a broad analysis on altcoins, specifically their relationship to Bitcoin and what we might expect over the coming days, weeks, maybe even for the end of this month, going into the beginning of March, for the crypto market as a whole. If that sounds good to you, hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. Let's get into it. Of course, this analysis I intend and expect to apply to the average cryptocurrency. Not every single cryptocurrency is going to perform as depicted in this video, but nonetheless, we're going to try. Here we go. Okay, so it is the 21st day of February. Here we are looking at the others BTC chart. Now, I think this is a important chart to take into consideration, okay? And the reason why here, I want to point out any of these moments here where the others BTC chart found a relative high, okay? Like right here, right in this moment, that was a relative high. Right there was a relative high. Right here was a relative high. And here, and here, and here, okay? That's, I mean, well, we don't know if this is a relative high yet. I think we're at a relative high, and I think there's signals saying that. You know, we've got bearish divergence on our daily RSI. Stochastics have bearish divergence. We just flipped to red on the MACD, and we had bearish divergence there as well, all on the daily time frames. I think it's very obvious that this is a high point. We're probably going to come down. The point that I'm trying to make is not, is this a high? Are we coming down? How far are we going to go down or not or whatever? I don't care about that right now. What I'm trying to focus on is what happens when this chart tops off and what happens to the average altcoin. Because again, this chart is altcoins versus Bitcoin. The others chart is the top 125 coins, excluding the top 10. So you effectively have 115 coins in an index here. It's like our S&P 500 for any relevant altcoins in the crypto space, your top dogs. That's the others chart. We price that into Bitcoin. This going up doesn't mean altcoins are gaining value. This going down doesn't mean altcoins are losing value. It just means Bitcoin, altcoins are outperforming Bitcoin or underperforming Bitcoin. Bitcoin's outperforming altcoins. Altcoins are outperforming Bitcoin. That's how you should think of it whenever it's coming up and down. What happens at these focal points when the altcoins stop outperforming Bitcoin? Because there's periods, right? Overall, since April of 2025, this is that kind of time frame right there, we've just been moving sideways. We've been kind of neutral. But there are periods where altcoins do better than Bitcoin and where altcoins do worse than Bitcoin. When these periods shift, that's what we're focusing on. Okay, I think it's obvious. Let's move on. I'm going to put the others chart now over this. Just the simple others chart, not the BTC version. New price scale. We'll put it in log. And then we'll zoom this in, or maybe, let's see how we can do this. Let's move this. Yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll move this a little bit. Can I move it? Are we able to? I should be able to. Is it? I should be able to move it. I don't know why I can't move it. I'm unable to. Okay, there we go. You can see here that at the point when altcoins start to drop versus Bitcoin, the Bitcoin outperforms altcoins. That's typically a point when altcoins actually are losing value versus the dollar, right? And this is a simple fact. This is something that we all know. Anybody who's in crypto, this is rudimentary stuff right here. When Bitcoin is going up, right, we can probably overlay this and see that Bitcoin is dropping as well in these moments, but because of this chart here, altcoins are dropping harder, okay? Altcoins are dropping versus Bitcoin here. The fact that altcoins are dropping right now, they're probably dropping harder than Bitcoin. Here you top off, momentary high. Here you top off, momentary high. They all kind of correlate. This was kind of an odd part right here. Altcoins actually here were losing value versus US dollars, but they went on a run where they're actually doing better than Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, if you were losing values in dollars here, but you were outperforming Bitcoin, that means Bitcoin was dropping faster than altcoins, which is not common. Nevertheless, the top here in the altcoin to Bitcoin pair, others to BTC pair, did result in more selling off. Every single time it actually has resulted in selling off, right? We didn't pump after any of these moments. Here we kind of chilled and there was a little pump, but really this kicked off an overall move down. I think the point's been made. What I'm trying to say here is that we can see if any of that was hard to follow, just understand what we just did effectively verified what I'm about to say, which is that on this chart, on the daily time frame, we have bearish divergence on the RSI, on the stochastics, and on the MACD. We just flipped red. We just crossed bearishly on the MACD. We look like we're at a local topping point, and we're probably going to come down. Now, this by itself, it's the others BTC chart, doesn't mean altcoins are going to drop in value. But from what we just saw, what we just proved, typically it does. Typically it does. Typically, if this chart drops, altcoins are losing value. Now, if this chart drops and altcoins are losing value and they're not just like tanking through the floor, likely Bitcoin is also losing value alongside of those altcoins. I wonder if I can get this here. Can I change this? I bet if we pull up the Bitcoin chart, it'll more or less look the same. Let's switch it to Bitcoin, BTC USD. Right, at a high point here, you were at a relative high point, came down, Bitcoin did top off over here. High point here, Bitcoin did come down after that high point, but Bitcoin did go up a little bit. That might be why we saw this accelerated pace down right there. High point here, low point for Bitcoin. High point there, low point for Bitcoin. Bitcoin didn't really move down, it just moved sideways. High point here, not really a high point for Bitcoin either, I guess, honestly. So any of these times, actually, for what we're seeing, even if this drop happens, Bitcoin doesn't actually necessarily drop right then and there, does it, actually? That wasn't a kind of stagnated. You saw a little drop afterwards, but then you pumped, right? Stagnated, dropped a little bit, but then you pumped afterwards. I'm wondering then if what happens is we see altcoins drop and then Bitcoin just chills and kind of consolidates. That'd be interesting. Bitcoin will likely drop as well, right? We can drop here and still be in this overall consolidation phase, right? We can see a lower low and still be consolidating. Anyways, this in itself doesn't necessarily mean that Bitcoin's going to drop. I do think that Bitcoin's going to drop as well, but it doesn't necessarily mean Bitcoin's going to drop, at least from what we've just gone over. But typically, these topping points do mean that altcoins are about to drop. So looking at the fact that we have bearish divergence here on all these indicators, I'm assuming we will see some type of pullback from this range. We're at these lows here, we're at these highs here, we're just in this range. So maybe somewhere like in the middle here, maybe somewhere below where we have closing support or wicking support here, or maybe we go all the way back down to the bottom end of this range and look to pursue lower prices, even something like that. But on this chart, I mean, that would imply anything from like a 10% drop, 6% drop versus Bitcoin, maybe more, and that would likely be a few more percentages versus dollars. The RSI on the 4-hour, the stochastics, and the MACD all look bearish. They all look shifted bearish. So it is Saturday. What are others doing today on Saturday? Others are kind of neutral. I think we're going to have a probably rather neutral / bearish weekend, but next week should kick off with altcoins largely dropping to the downside. I think Bitcoin will drop too, but altcoins will have a bit of a worse time. So not financial advice, not a financial advisor, but if you were to take one thing away from this video, besides the examples of TA that we've just done, it would be that altcoins are likely about to see a little bit of a drop. A little bit. Nothing too crazy, but a little bit. And typically, these phases can last anywhere from November 21st to 18th. That's about a month to maybe like 2 weeks there. Maybe a month and a half, something like that. So this drop that we're seeing, maybe we've started this 3 or 4 days ago. It's probably going to last sometime into March. So I would expect that altcoins start to drop going into the end of February and also drop in the beginning of March. But likely at some point in March, probably around the halfway point, we will see this phase in the others BTC chart come to completion, as we have typically, right? These don't last for months and months and months. That's not how it is typically. It's these like short little bursts. So at some point here, probably in March, probably around the middle of March or early March, we will find a local low versus Bitcoin, and those local lows typically do, just as the local highs typically mean others is dropping in value versus dollars, the local lows mean that altcoins others will pump in value versus dollars also. Not always, it's not that cut and dry, but it makes sense in my opinion that we would again dump altcoins and Bitcoin. The whole market probably will start to dump, or at the very least shift downwards going into the end of this month of February. We will continue to move downwards going into March, and then likely after the first week or two in March, we should be finding a low phase in which it's time to both accumulate more crypto and to get excited about some recovery. I do believe March will close green. I do believe we'll see a good month in March, but it might open softly. Anyways, hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one. I hope this gave you something to think about. Yeah, I don't want to say anything else, I guess. That's it. Take care. Bye-bye.